What happens when a legendary actress with decades of experience sits across from a talk show host who believes she has all the answers? Buckle up, because what unfolded between Marla Gibbs and Jennifer Hudson was nothing short of explosive. Before we dive into this jaw-dropping clash, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and leave a comment, because you're definitely going to want to share your thoughts on this one. The Jennifer Hudson Show was supposed to be a warm, easygoing afternoon segment. Marla Gibbs, the iconic star who kept audiences laughing for years on The Jeffersons and 227, was invited to discuss her new memoir and reflect on her remarkable career. But no one expected this conversation to transform into a tense verbal showdown that left the entire studio in shock. Jennifer Hudson walked out with her signature confidence, flashing that famous $1,000,000 smile as the audience cheered. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the one and only Marla Gibbs." The applause roared as Marla, dressed in a sleek burgundy blazer, made her way to the chair with the grace of someone who had commanded stages for over 5 decades. "Marla, it is such an honor to have you here," Jennifer said warmly, settling into her seat. "I have to tell you, growing up watching you on television, you were a huge inspiration." Marla smiled politely, though her eyes hinted at something sharper. "Thank you, Jennifer. Though I have to say, inspiration is earned after years of hard work. It's not just handed out like participation trophies." The remark caught Jennifer off guard, though she kept moving. "Absolutely. And speaking of hard work, let's talk about your new book. In it, you mentioned the challenges you faced as a black actress in Hollywood during the 70s and 80s. How do you feel things have changed for performers today?" Marla leaned back, her face turning serious. "Well, Jennifer, that's an interesting question, especially coming from someone who won an Oscar so early in their career. Tell me, what challenges have you faced exactly?" The studio grew tense. This wasn't the cozy conversation anyone expected. Jennifer's smile wavered, though she tried to steady herself. "I mean, every performer faces obstacles. The industry is tough for everyone." "Tough for everyone?" Marla repeated, her voice sharp. "Let me tell you what tough looks like, sweetheart. Tough is being told you're too dark for primetime television. Tough is fighting for every line, every scene, because writers think your role is just comic relief. Tough is not having a talk show handed to you because you can sing." The tension was now electric. Jennifer's production team looked uneasy, not sure whether to cut the cameras or let things continue. Jennifer herself tried to hold her ground. "Marla, I respect everything you've been through, but I think you might be misunderstanding my path." "I've worked incredibly hard to get here." Marla let out a sharp laugh. "Misunderstanding? Honey, I've been in this business since before you were even born. I understand perfectly. What I don't understand is this new generation that thinks struggle means not getting the role you wanted after the first audition." Jennifer's voice rose slightly, cracks appearing in her calm exterior. "That's not fair, Marla. You don't know my story. You don't know what I've gone through." "Oh, I know your story," Marla shot back, leaning forward. "American Idol, Dreamgirls, Oscar winner, Grammy winner, now talk show host. Sounds really rough. Meanwhile, some of us spent decades fighting just to be seen as more than a stereotype." The crowd was silent, glued to the fiery exchange. Jennifer's hands clenched in her lap as she searched for the right response. "I never said my journey was harder than yours, but that doesn't mean it was easy." Marla raised her brows. "Child, you want to know what wasn't easy? Watching talented black actresses get passed over year after year while the industry waited for the next big thing. Being grateful for roles beneath my talent because they were the only roles available. And it sure isn't easy sitting here listening to someone who had every door opened, talking about struggle." Jennifer stood suddenly, her composure cracking. "You know what, Marla? I invited you here to celebrate your career and your book, but all you want to do is tear me down." Marla stayed seated, calm but firm. "I'm not tearing you down, baby. I'm trying to teach you something. There's a difference between being handed opportunities and earning them with blood, sweat, and tears." Jennifer's voice trembled with disbelief. "Handed opportunities? Do you think winning an Oscar was handed to me? Do you think this show was just given to me?" "I think," Marla said slowly, rising with deliberate grace, "that you've confused talent with struggle. Yes, you can sing. Yes, you can act. But don't pretend you climbed the same mountain we had to climb." Her words hit the air like a thunderclap. Jennifer's face flushed with anger and humiliation. "You want to talk about mountains, Marla? Let me tell you about mine. I grew up in Chicago watching my mom struggle to put food on the table while I sang in church choirs, just praying someone would notice. Mara crossed her arms, unimpressed. Church choirs. How original. Tell me something I haven't heard 1,000 times. You want original? Jennifer shot back, stepping closer. How about losing my best friend, my everything, to violence while I was trying to make it in this industry? How about performing through grief so deep I could barely breathe? Carrying that pain every day while people like you dismiss my success? For the first time, Mara's expression softened, but her tone stayed steady. Tragedy doesn't equal professional struggle, honey. Losing loved ones is part of life, not career obstacles. The audience gasped at the coldness of her words. Jennifer's jaw dropped. Did you just minimize my trauma? I didn't say it doesn't matter, Mara replied matter-of-factly. I said it's not the same as industry struggle. I buried friends too. The difference is, I had to grieve while fighting for roles that barely paid the bills. Jennifer began pacing, her frustration spilling out. You know what your problem is? You're so bitter from your own pain that you can't acknowledge anyone else's. You're gatekeeping struggle, acting like it's an exclusive club. Mara laughed, but without joy. Child, I'm not gatekeeping. I'm just refusing to act like your red carpet stroll was the same as my battle through broken glass. Jennifer spun on her. You think this was a red carpet stroll? Do you know how many times I was told I was too big, too dark, too much? Do you know how many people told me I'd never make it because I didn't fit their mold? Yes, I know, Mara nodded firmly. Because I lived it decades before you were born. Only difference is, back then there was no American Idol, no machine ready to polish your story. We had to smash doors open that didn't even exist. The producer frantically signaled for a commercial, but the women were locked in. Jennifer's voice cracked. So because you had it harder, my story doesn't count? I don't deserve my success? You deserve your success, Mara said quietly but firmly. But you don't get to rewrite history and act like your fight was the same. Respect the women who bled for the opportunities you inherited. Jennifer's breathing was heavy now, her eyes shining with emotion. You know what, Mara? Maybe you're right. Maybe women like you did bleed for opportunities. But maybe you bled so much that now you can't see anything but blood. Maybe you're too stuck in the past to celebrate progress. Mara's eyes darkened. Progress? You call this progress? Having a talk show where legends are disrespected instead of honored? Jennifer's voice cracked with disbelief. This isn't wisdom, Mara, it's bitterness. You've turned your frustration into a weapon against people who had nothing to do with your pain. The exchange grew hotter, the studio nearly trembling under the weight of their words. Mara's fury burst through. You represent everything wrong with this industry. Instant success, instant platforms, instant complaints. No patience, no real grind. Jennifer's voice was firm. And you represent what's wrong too, clinging so hard to the past that you can't lift up the next generation. You call it wisdom, but it's just anger dressed up as advice. The two women stood locked in a battle of words, neither giving ground. Jennifer finally shook her head, her voice calmer but firm. You know what, Mara? I think we're done. This interview is over. You going to kick me off your own show? Mara asked with a thin smile. I'm ending this before we say things we can't take back, Jennifer replied, turning to the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, Marla Gibbs. But Mara wasn't finished. Jennifer, wait, she called out. Jennifer paused but didn't turn. Mara's voice softened slightly. You're right about one thing. I am bitter. 50 years in this business will do that. But my bitterness doesn't make your success invalid. It just makes me wish you understood the weight of what you carry. Jennifer turned slowly. And I wish you understood that attacking me doesn't honor the women before you. It just repeats the same cycle that hurt you. With that, Jennifer walked off stage, leaving Mara standing before a stunned audience. Mara's legendary composure returned as she looked out at the crowd and offered a small smile. Well, she said, I guess that's what happens when two strong black women refuse to back down. And there it was, one of the most explosive TV moments in recent memory. So what do you think? Was Mara right to call out Jennifer, or did she cross a line? Share your thoughts in the comments, and make sure you subscribe for more stories like this.